I always had a connection with music. My first words when I was 1.5 or 2 was to ask my mother, could you please ask God to make me a composer so I could write music? The first recollection I had of music that really affected me was listening to my father sing in the synagogue. I must have been about 2 or 3 years old. It was the most incredible thing I've ever heard. I'll never forget that sound. It was hearing 4 voices sing in harmony, live. And it just transported me. The second music experience that I had that really affected me was hearing Peter and the Wolf. And I remember it was Toscanini conducting and Basil Rathbone narrating. It was a recording that my parents had. When I was 10 or 11, I taught myself to play piano. I don't know, I just had this feel. I just knew where my fingers should go. When I was about 13, I started playing in bands. Most of the guys I played with were a lot older than I. They would come to my house at all times of the day and night. I was also working in an organ store demonstrating Hammond organs. The guy who owned the store would give me jazz records by the great organist Jimmy Smith, who played a Hammond organ. I always wanted one so bad. I used to dream about having my own Hammond. In my dream, I would be holding on tight to that organ so hard that I hoped I would be able to pull the organ out of that dream and have it when I would wake up. A few years later, my grandfather died and left money for me to get that Hammond. I work on mainly a lot of independent films. In the early 1990s, I used to work for a record company. I was their staff producer. And there was somebody that was working there that had convinced me to buy a computer. I knew nothing about computers. I didn't like computers. But now I'm used to it and I like it. I play clarinet and I play flute and I play saxophone, I play piano, I play percussion. So I do play these instruments that I integrate in with computerized sounds. There are 2 different ways that I work on film. And one is the director or producer will send me the actual film to work on. If that happens, I bring it into my computer program and I sync it up and I write from the computer onto the film. A lot of times, which I prefer, is to have the script before they start shooting. On The Believer, that's what we did. I wrote an orchestral piece based on what I read. Much of the music was inspired by Hebrew vowels taken from the Torah. The music was rewritten after they gave me the film. On Milarepa, I was given the film and knew nothing of Buddhism nor Tibetan music at that time. The producer gave me a bunch of CDs to listen to, and I researched the culture and religion before I started working. I am orally visual. There are pictures in my mind when I compose. I can see colors, I see shapes. That's how I think about music. It's conceptual. I take an idea and keep on developing it. I break it up. Angular shapes form in my mind. I think about surrealistic painters like Dali and Magritte. They're so influential to my music. Every single project I do is different. That's what I love about my work. The environment in which the listener hears music shapes that person's perception and mood of what the music might be conveying. For example, we react differently to hearing a string quartet when we hear it performed outside in a park as opposed to inside in a small concert hall. Throughout the years, I have noticed that when I score a scene, the acceptance and perception of my work changes through the eyes of the directors and editors according to the time of day and environment in which they are listening. I have tried numerous times to reintroduce the same music to my associates at different times of the day and at different locales. The reactions to the same music changed drastically. Music heard in the early part of the day is received in a more positive way. I've also found that playing music softly attracts a person's attention more so than playing loudly. I think of it as inviting a person to hear music as opposed to bombarding them with it. Lately, I have been integrating extraneous sounds and noises within my compositions to create an environment for my music to sit in. It has been becoming a very interesting and enlightening endeavor for me. I have added white noise sounds and sounds that sound dirty to the music. Other sounds I've experimented with create a feeling of age, a romanticism.
Funny feelings I keep pent up inside. Excuse me if I seem to be a little bit shy, but you're the one I'm thinking of. You hold your fatal charms with a grace and demure. You make the mountains shake and all the men insecure. But honey, if I muster up some courage, be sure that you will be the one I